countries have you been visiting, or have visited, I should say?
Well, Spain and Germany, the United States. I've been from Texas to New York, I'm happy to say.
Uh-huh.
And Canada. I've been right across Canada, which is pretty amazing. Our country is huge and beautiful and diverse, and there's a lot of amazing people. And, and obviously the West Indies, Bahamas, Jamaica, Barbados. But I think, I think that's the other thing is like, music is that vehicle. So traveling and playing and performing, because that's part of your job.
Well, have you
is
ever?
The one aspect of it, but the whole road experience or the things that also happen are fodder for so many other things too. So there's a lot going on when you travel. It's not just like I'm going to work. Yeah, you are playing a gig. You're having fun. You're playing the tunes. You're in front of an audience. It's so cool. But there's lots of cool things that happen in between.
Yeah, like called life.
Life, exactly.
When you were on the islands, did you ever run across any voodoo type of stuff, or ever check that out?
Never, but I know that spirit culture, especially in Jamaica, is very predominant. I mean, it's something that's looked on as, I wouldn't say it's voodoo, but definitely there is that. They know that there's certain areas that are haunted on the island. They will go there. Some people will. Some people won't. They may not want to put themselves in harm's way for whatever reason. But no, I've never come across it. But I find it fascinating and its connections even to like Western Christianity and things like that and how it developed.
No, I just I hate to say it. A lot of people when they hear reggae music, the first thing they think about is voodoo. I had somebody on the show last week, and we were talking about reggae music, and the first thing they said, oh, you're talking about, and I go, no, I wasn't talking about sacrificing chickens. I'm talking about some good tune music, like Bob Marley,
yeah. Yeah. Like in Haitian, culture, which is, West Indies again. I mean, you can't help but not see some of that parallel in terms of its feeling to a lot of places, St. Thomas, Dominican, Trinidad, Tobago, Bahamas, Barbados, certain parts of Barbados for sure. But, the other thing that's interesting about Jamaican culture and its development after the Spanish, fought the British, and British won and became a British colony in its history. The whole slave trade via the Spanish, and kind of really also East Indian culture being amalgamated together is also where you've got a whole, like there's the blue skinned people. I don't know if you've ever heard about them, but they live up in the mountains and they're the true indigenous people to the island. There's not many of them left anymore. But they were there long before any of the East Indian people were brought there or any of the African culture were brought there. So it's a real melding pot also too of people, and then but again it's so it's so tropical and mountainous and that's the other thing. Like the resort has that aspect. It has the picture perfect postcard beach look with the palm trees, but when you get up into the mountains and you see how rocky it is, or some of the views, there's like the mountains up in 9 Mile where Bob grew up, and I've been there. That's part of where the video was shot. I mean, the view there is like it's almost awe-inspiring. Even where Bob would write, there's a rock there. And he would sit every night on this rock, and he'd even use the rock as his pillow. It's part of one of the lyrics, Stone Rock for My Pillow. The natural mystic that he talks about in that song, there's a natural mystic blowing through is where he was looking out. It's the mists and stuff that are in the mountains that are there. I'm even getting a chill even just thinking about it. So much of Bob is there. Aside from the kind of like, and it's hard for me to go back there. I've been there like 4 or 5 times now. It's a mausoleum, a crypt. It's all made out of this African stone. His mom is buried there. This is actually where Bob grew up. One of his brothers is buried there. There's shops and little places to buy a Red Stripe, and it's very getting touristy, and you can kind of feel that, this, and you go, that's not what Bob was about. But the other aspect is that if you feel Bob, you can't help but not. Even before you get there, you start feeling him. He's so ingrained into that area. The spiritual aspect, like you were saying, is there. In some places you can't help but not get it. I mean, the third oldest bridge in the world that was built by the Spanish is there in near Spanish Town Road as you're going into Kingston.
Uh-huh.
You drive by it and you just go, man, it's just oozing all this juice, because people died on that bridge during battles, and, who knows who crossed it. And it's a pretty wild place. It's just filled with tons of history. So that's the other part of it. History oozes it.
Oh, wow. Oh, I wish I would have been able to go there when I was younger. It's just,
You still got time, man. Go. It's just a wonderful experience.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, it's just, everywhere I've gone, it's all capitalized so much. And, it's really hard to find anything that's, basic like what it was. It's really hard.
When I think with some people too, like, that's what triggered it for us, is like, okay, we'd leave and we'd be gone for 9 or 10 hours after being at this resort the first time that we went. And I bought a little guitar, and I do this every time now we go back. I buy a little guitar from this place.
Uh-huh.
I teach kids music. I leave the guitar with a kid there, but I'd be playing around like the beach bar at the resort. They just let me do it. And we'd be telling our stories, like our adventures. Yeah, we did this and we did that, and we were in Kingston and we were at Coronation Market. And we went up to Bob's, and people are just kind of looking at us like, "What are we doing here?" And I'm thinking, yeah, like, it's great here. It's beautiful. Like, I get it, but there's so much amazing stuff. It was the fear of it. Like you're saying, the capitalization of so many things. Like everywhere you go, there's this homogenization to so much stuff.
Yeah.
That unless you sort of go, okay, I'm gonna break the boundary, and people are like, don't go to Kingston, don't do it. I mean, we went. Well, I had t-shirts, shorts, sandals, and an acoustic guitar on my back. Walking around playing to people and hanging out and just. We were with people that we knew, like from the resort that we met. We met musicians, people that worked in gardening, because I'm a farmer. It's like, it's a no-brainer. I get it. Music lovers. Let's go do some of these things. So, like, in that whole moment, I was like, well, let's when we go back and when we do things there, let's not go to a resort, and you'd be surprised how welcoming, open-armed, very, helpful people can be in a lot of the smaller communities that are outside of the tourist areas. And the thing about it is that they don't want anything to happen to people there because tourism is so important.
Oh, yeah.
It's so, like, integral to their economy. I mean, export's one thing, but it's nowhere near what people make every year in their resorts in terms of, like, tourism. So you can have a wonderful time, Gary, just going and it can be far more inexpensive as a result, and you'd be well looked after.
Yeah,
I'll give you a number.
Did you did you run across a lot of the poor people, like people living on the streets, and how were they accepting you?
Well, it's how you get involved. I mean, we started going to these elders' nights that was run by a friend of ours, Curvin Merchant. He's a reggae musician there, and he has a little place. It was originally a industrial truck dump site that he got, and through a lot of help with the community just outside of Orcabessa, the race course area, they cleaned it up. They built some cabins over time. It's more of an artist retreat now because Papa also has a recording studio there.
Oh, wow.
So people come and use the studio, and it's really nice. I mean, some people will go, well, I wouldn't stay, in a cabin out in the jungle without a wall and gates and insecurity, but you don't, Papa's there and people are there and there's always something going on. And so the elders' nights were something Papa's like, well, here's what we do. Everybody kind of chips in, and Miss Annie, who's got this little stand across the street, she cooks for as many people as we can put in money for. But there's many elders that don't have food, or they're, homeless, and we feed them. We do that weekly.
Uh-huh.
And doing that, it's kind of like you develop that respect, because you're not just there to poach something. And I think that's where anywhere you go, that sense of respect is what's integral. And in being a musician, I'm sorry to say, it's like a bit of a weapon, because it is a protection device. I mean, people think I'm crazy because I'm walking around singing to them and they don't know me, so they either tend to stay away from me or they listen. And if they can listen from afar or observe and see what's going on, and they know that the white cat from Canada who's singing these tunes isn't just a freak, then all of a sudden I kind of break that sort of that bond, or that wall, and create a bond,
Well, I bet you find yourself more creative too when you get over there. You don't have the stress. And, the culture and the environment, I think, would be so much more, you'd be a lot more creative.
I played on 2 or 3 recordings the last time we were there, just because I was walking to Papa's front gate. One of the kids would come, sir, there's a man in the studio. He wants you to play bass on a song. I don't even know the guy in the studio. I walk in. Here's the track. Play for a while. Work on something with Papa. We end up recording another tune for another guy who wanted to do. It's happening all the time, Gary. That's the other thing, is that's what I remember about those moments when I was a kid, is that I don't have my phone on. I'm not near technology, and it breaks that thing, that umbilical cord, and you're like, okay, right, you're focused in a completely different way. So creativity just is everywhere all the time. I mean, people are making guitars out of oil cans and pieces of bamboo and playing music on it. Dude, how'd you come up with that? Hands down, here's my guitar. It's beautiful, because it's like I said, it's happening everywhere.
Well, what's really cool from what you're describing, when, I'm a little bit older than you, but, growing up, I miss what society was back at your age when you were a kid and when I was a kid. It seems like, if your parents had a problem, the neighbors would be coming over helping. You seemed to have friends in the neighborhood. You go into a store, they treated you different. You weren't just a person in a line. And things have changed so much, and that's what I really miss. And when you get out to someplace like you're talking about, the people are real. They're not so involved in themselves. And that's what the problem is with society nowadays. Everybody's mainly caring about themselves.
Well, you're right. And I think it's something for a philosophy course in terms of sociology and the development, especially when it comes to the amalgaming of how we now have technology so prevalent in our lives, which creates this sense of convenience, which then sort of in some ways destroys creativity. You don't have those moments. I mean, every Jamaican probably has a really nice phone, to stay in touch with the 21st century, but they might not have running water every night, or electricity, or enough food, or stuff that the kids need for school. But your thinking creativity goes up because the mother of necessity kicks in and goes, how do we do this? How do we fix this problem? How do we get around it? How do we make do? I mean, I remember one of our friends, Jeff, he was playing on the resort, and he was like, we were there. It was the first time we were there, but like I said, we made friends quick, because musician. We talk. I'm walking around playing a guitar. He's playing a horn and a flute. Long story short, right? There it happened. And one of his pads on a flute. Pads, ladies and gentlemen, it's a little almost like a piece of cork. And it sits on the bottom of the key register, so when you close it, the wind that's moving through the flute itself, right? So it's like, okay, well, what do we do? And he had an issue with his tenor. It was on his tenor. And the same thing with the chord